Hi everyone, welcome to the Weekly Verbringen. So I just saw a letter from the Rebbe in English. Someone asks the Rebbe about his pet parakeet, and he wants to know that he wants to let it free. He wanted to know where to bring it, and the Rebbe advises him where to go. And then he had some type of halacha shaila, and the Rebbe said it's not part of my duties to answer halachic questions that any Orthodox rabbi that you ask the shaila to can answer. And then the Rebbe says, but it is my duty to inform you that everything has to have a lesson in Avodas Hashem, and the lesson of freeing the parakeet, the pet bird that you have, is that every neshama is just like that bird, that it yearns to break free of its boundaries. It yearns to get out of the cage that it's caged down into the physical materialism of the world. And it wants to break free, and it's our duty and it's our job and mission to help the neshama go free. And it's a very interesting thing, because this week we read Beha'alosha es haneros, and Chassidus explains that a ner is a neshama, ner Hashem nishmas adam, because just like the candle, the flame is always shaking. It's always shaking because it wants to leave where it is tied down to the wick, and it wants to reconnect to its source. So also every neshama is constantly yearning to connect to its source above. The problem is that there's a cover, and the cover hides over that true yearning and that true feeling of the neshama. So the neshama doesn't always feel that reality, that true yearning that it has. It convinces itself that where it is good. You know, they tell this story of a rabbi that went to he was in an inn, and in the middle of the night, he gets up to say Tikkun Chatzos, and the innkeeper was a Jewish guy, and he's feeling very sad. He hears crying coming from the room, and he comes over. Is everything all right? Can I offer you another pillow? Can I offer you another blanket? What's the problem? And the rabbi explains, no, it's not a physical discomfort, but we once had a Beis HaMikdash, and I'm crying in yearning for the building of the Beis HaMikdash. So I'm crying, I'm sitting on the floor and crying regarding the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. And so the innkeeper figures, if that's what you got to do, so he also sits down and he also starts to cry. He has many things to cry about, and he's sitting and he's crying with the rabbi. And suddenly it comes to more happy, joyous parts of Tikkun Chatzos, and the rabbi gets up and starts dancing. He feels hope for the coming of Mashiach. And so the innkeeper also starts dancing. The innkeeper's wife hears the noise, and she comes out and says, "Why are you dancing?" And the innkeeper immediately says, "We're dancing for the Churban Beis HaMikdash." And it's at some times that we are so stuck in our world that we don't even realize we dance for the Churban Beis HaMikdash. We don't realize there's something more that we want. This life, this world that we're in isn't everything. There's something so much deeper. There's something so much greater that we're looking for. There's something so much greater that's coming. And because we don't realize it, we don't even feel the yearning of our soul, to the extent that sometimes the soul is yearning, and we imagine that it's all kinds of other things. Maybe if I take another trip overseas, maybe if I tour the world again, maybe if I go far east, maybe there I'll finally find the joy and the serenity that I'm looking for. And the truth is, the neshama will never be calm because it's waiting and yearning to be able to connect to Hashem. But it's Aaron HaKohen's job. Aaron HaKohen is the Jewish shepherd. He helps and he shepherds the Jewish souls in order to reveal in us that yearning that we have to bring out that yearning that's there constantly, that's there naturally, that we want to connect to Hashem. And that's the Aaron HaKohen. And the Rebbe tells us that when the Aaron HaKohen, when we have that Aaron HaKohen, his duties, the duties of the Rebbe, it's interesting. The Rebbe tells the person what to do about the parakeet, what to do about his pet, and how to deal with it. When it comes to halacha shayla, the Rebbe says there's others who do that. But when it comes to help free the bird, and more than that, to help free the soul and to help inspire and bring out that yearning in the soul, that's what a Rebbe comes to do. And that's what the Rebbe tells us, the Roya, the shepherd, the Aaron HaKohen of the generation, is arousing us to the realization that there's only one way that we'll be happy and content with the coming of Mashiach. And that the only way we'll be happy and content is when we reveal and understand that our soul is yearning to connect to Hashem. Our soul is yearning to learn Torah, to do mitzvahs, to do the things that help us connect to Hashem. And moreover, to bring the ultimate freedom, the coming of Mashiach. You know, there's a story that I once heard about two Bachrim who went on Markas Shlichus. And they were there for a while. And they went shopping, and one of them perhaps bought some things in the store that he wouldn't have bought back home in Crown Heights. Hechsher wasn't the best, whatever it may have been. As he goes to the cashier and takes out his wallet to pay, as he opens his wallet, he sees the picture of the Rebbe. And immediately reminds himself of where he belongs and what he should be doing and where he should be. And that's something which is constantly there, and it's a constant ability that a person has. There's a letter that the Rebbe writes to someone, and the Rebbe says, when you are when you're not happy, when you're not feeling joy in Avodas Hashem, gaze at a picture of the Rebbe. The Rebbe says that my father-in-law, the previous Rebbe, gaze at a picture of the Rebbe and know that being a Roye Yisrael Amiti, being that he is a true shepherd of Israel, when you gaze at him, he is gazing back at you. And the Rebbe's look will definitely help you in whatever it is that you need, both in overcoming any obstacles that may stand in the way, and in being able, despite whatever situation we may be in, to be able to serve Hashem with true joy and with ultimate joy. And that's something that we're told. There's a famous mimer from the Rebbe. Many of you remember this mimer, Rani v'Simchi Bas Tzion, from the Haftarah of Shabbos Parshas Beha'alosha. For Tezvav Sivan, today is the day when the previous Rebbe was put in prison. And when the previous Rebbe was put in prison, he went into the Shpalerke prison, the most scary prison possible. And as he's going down the hallway, he sits down on the bench for a moment. And the Frierdiker Rebbe in his writings describes the fear. He says, I began to think about those who are at home. I began to think what's happening now with the Chassidim. What's happening with my wife? What's happening with my daughters, with my son-in-law, with the one who will become my son-in-law? What's happening with all of them? And the Frierdiker Rebbe says these thoughts began to depress my spirit until I told myself, stop thinking. It's true that I love them and they love me, but they're dependent on me, and I am dependent on the one who said, and the world became. There's no need to have fear. And he says, with that I lifted myself to thoughts which are high thoughts, which are above the regular material homes of people. And then says the Frierdiker Rebbe, I pictured in my mind the Tzior Pnei Kodesh HaKadoshim, the picture of the Holy of Holies, my Holy Father, the Rebbe Rashab. And he writes, puts a few dots, and he writes, Oisius HaMachshava, these are the letters of thought which can be transcribed into words. And he says, Abba, Abba Kadisha, Father, Holy Father. And the Rebbe explains this. When a person's in a state, when he's in a state of imprisonment, when he's in prison, in jail, in a cage, whether it's physically, whether it's spiritually, from his animal soul that puts him in prison, then the way to deal with it and the way to pull oneself out is picture in your face the true Raya Yisrael, picture in your mind the true Jewish shepherd, picture the Rebbe's picture in your mind, and that will help pull you out of the physical and spiritual constraints. And that's what the Rebbe says in the Maimer. When we want to be besimcha, when we want to be able to serve Hashem with joy, the way to do it is by connecting to our holy Rabbeim. And as a result of that, not only will they take us out of our own galus pnimi, our own inner exile, but more importantly, we will go and be led by Mashiach, who will reveal himself and take us out of galus, and take us all to Yerushalayim HaKodesh, to our true home, where we'll be free to connect to Hashem in the ultimate place, in the Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi immediately. And definitely that in the meantime, as the Rebbe says, not only will we be able to be joyful, but Hashem will give us all the reasons to be joyous. Because Hashem will give every single one of us all the blessings in Bani, Chayim, Mezaini, children, life and livelihood, V'kulam, Revicha, all of them in abundance. That everyone who has whatever needs they may have, they'll be fulfilled fully and completely. And until the most and the true need that we all have, the immediate coming of Mashiach now, a guten Shabbos.